Today, the world mourns the loss of five remarkable figures whose lives shaped sports, music, film, and storytelling. These were legends who left behind more than achievements. They gave us inspiration, memories, and a deeper sense of what it means to live with passion. From the courtside wisdom of Charles Rosen to the fighting spirit of Ricky Hatton, the timeless music of Richard Davies and Jesse Colin Young, and the unforgettable screen presence of Graham Greene, each carried a unique gift that touched millions. Their departures remind us that while life is fragile, the legacies of true icons endure forever. Tonight, we pause to honor their journeys, their triumphs, and the memories that will continue to live in our hearts. The news was confirmed on September 13, 2025. Charles Rosen, the respected writer, coach, and voice of basketball, passed away at the age of 84. His loss has left a quiet sadness in the sports world. For many, his words were more than analysis. They were poetry about the game he loved. Rosen's career stretched across decades. He began as a basketball player himself, learning the game on the court before moving into coaching and teaching. Yet it was his writing that would make him a household name among fans of the sport. His sharp but thoughtful columns blended deep knowledge of basketball with the rhythm of storytelling. Readers often said his articles felt like conversations with a friend who truly understood the game. Born on January 18, 1941, in the Bronx, Rosen grew up in a city where basketball was part of everyday life. He carried that love into every role he held: player, coach, mentor, and finally author. He published books and countless essays, each layered with both facts and feeling. His most famous works captured not only the strategies of the court, but also the humanity of the players. Former NBA coach Phil Jackson, who shared a lifelong friendship with Rosen, once said, "Charlie didn't just write about basketball. He wrote about the soul of the game." That line has been widely shared again in recent days, as tributes pour in from fans and colleagues alike. His coaching career was equally important to his story. Rosen spent years guiding young players at different levels, focusing not only on skills but also on discipline, teamwork, and respect for the game. Many of his former players describe him as a mentor who cared as much about their lives off the court as their performances on it. On social media, one of his former students wrote, "Coach Rosen taught me more about life than basketball. He showed me what it means to fight with integrity." That kind of tribute has been repeated in countless ways, proving the depth of his influence. Rosen's death marks the end of a remarkable era of sports writing. In a time when commentary could often feel rushed or shallow, he took the opposite path. His style was patient, detailed, and deeply reflective. Readers could feel his respect for both the players and the game itself. Colleagues in journalism remember him as a generous mentor. Young writers often turned to him for advice, and he offered it with honesty. One fellow journalist wrote, "Charles Rosen gave me the courage to find my own voice. He believed in truth, not headlines." Even as he aged, Rosen never stopped engaging with basketball. He continued to write and share his views, remaining sharp and passionate until his final years. For many fans, his essays became part of their personal memory of the sport. Words that framed not only what happened on the court, but why it mattered. The news of his passing has been felt deeply across sports communities. ESPN described him as one of the last great storytellers of basketball. The New York Times praised him for blending fact and feeling in a way that captured both the sport and its culture. Rosen's legacy is not only in the pages he wrote, but also in the countless players, coaches, and readers he inspired. He helped people see basketball not only as a competition, but as an art form, a reflection of struggle, teamwork, and joy. As the world remembers him, there is a shared sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the stories he told, for the lessons he taught, and for the way he honored the game. His voice was calm but powerful, reminding us that greatness lies in detail and truth. Charles Rosen may be gone, but his words remain. They echo in the gyms where young players practice. They rest in the pages of books still waiting on shelves. And they live in the hearts of those who read his work and felt their love of basketball deepen. In the end, his story is one of devotion to a game that defined his life, and to the generations who will continue to play it. He will be remembered not only as a journalist, but as a teacher, a mentor, and a guardian of basketball's spirit. Farewell to Charles Rosen, the voice of basketball, whose wisdom will continue to guide the game long after his passing. The tragic news was confirmed in September 2025. Ricky Hatton, the man fans lovingly called the Hitman and the People's Champion, has passed away. His death has left a deep silence in the boxing world, where his presence once carried unmatched fire and energy. For supporters across the globe, Hatton was more than a fighter. He was a symbol of grit, honesty, and the working-class spirit that never gave up. Ricky Hatton was born on October 6, 1978, in Stockport, England. Raised in Manchester, he grew up in a family that loved the sport and embraced hard work. His rise to fame was not easy, but it was filled with determination. He turned professional in 1997, and from that moment forward, he captured the imagination of fight fans. By the early 2000s, Hatton was known for his relentless style. He fought with heart, bringing a pressure-heavy approach that kept opponents on edge. Fans packed arenas to see him fight, often singing his name with pride. He became not only a world champion, but also a hero to everyday people who saw themselves in him. His biggest victory came in 2005, when he shocked the boxing world by defeating Kostya to claim the IBF light welterweight title. That fight is remembered as one of the greatest performances in modern British boxing. Later that same year, Hatton also won the WBA welterweight belt, cementing his place among the best in the sport. Yet it was not just the wins that defined him. Hatton carried both triumphs and struggles with honesty. He faced defeats against greats like Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao, but even in those losses, fans stood by him. His humility and openness about his battles outside the ring made him deeply relatable. In interviews, Hatton often spoke about the pressures of fame and the mental toll that came with it. His courage in sharing those struggles gave hope to many who were facing similar challenges. One fan wrote online after his passing, "Ricky taught me that strength isn't about never falling down. It's about getting back up again." Tributes have poured in since the news of his death. Promoter Eddie Hearn shared, "Ricky was not just a champion in the ring. He was a champion of the people. His honesty, his kindness, and his fighting spirit will never be forgotten." Former opponent Paulie Malignaggi added, "He gave everything when he fought, and he gave everything when he lived. The world of boxing has lost a true brother." Hatton's connection with his fans was unlike any other. He would walk to the ring surrounded by thousands of voices, often accompanied by the song Blue Moon. For many, those moments were unforgettable, a celebration of pride, community, and shared emotion. Even after retirement, Hatton stayed close to boxing, working as a promoter and trainer. He gave younger fighters the same belief and encouragement that once carried him. In his later years, he was open about his desire to help the next generation avoid the pitfalls he once faced. He often said that giving back to the sport was his way of repaying what boxing gave him. His gym in Manchester became a second home, a place where fighters could train, grow, and dream. Family was always central to Ricky Hatton's life. He spoke lovingly of his children and took pride in being a father. His family has shared that beyond the titles and the headlines, Ricky was simply a man who loved his family more than anything. That statement has touched hearts deeply, reminding the world that even legends are also fathers, sons, and brothers. His passing at only 46 years old has left the sports world in shock. Fans gathered outside his gym to lay flowers and scarves, many of them wearing the blue and white colors of Manchester City, his beloved football club. The scenes echoed the way his fans supported him in life, united, proud, and loyal. Ricky Hatton's story will always be remembered as one of passion and courage. He fought with everything he had, and he lived with the same fire. His legacy is not only in the belts he won, but in the hearts of millions who admired his spirit. As the boxing world mourns, it also celebrates the joy he brought. His laughter, his humility, and his determination will remain a guiding light. The memory of Ricky Hatton will forever be tied to roaring crowds, unforgettable fights, and the unbreakable bond between a champion and his people. Farewell to Ricky Hatton, the people's champion, a fighter whose heart was as powerful as his fists, and whose legacy will live on in every fan who ever sang his name. The news was confirmed on September 6, 2025. Richard Davies, the musician who gave the world the soul of Supertramp, has passed away. He was 81 years old. His departure marks the end of an era, not only for the band he founded, but for the countless listeners who grew up with his songs. For many, Davies was more than a performer. He was a voice that captured their lives, their hopes, and their quiet moments of reflection. Richard Davies was born on July 22, 1944, in Swindon, England. From a young age, music became his compass. He studied classical piano, but he was drawn to the sound of jazz, blues, and early rock. That blend would later define the unique style that made his work unforgettable. His ability to shift between rhythmic blues piano and jazz-tinged progressive rock created a sound that belonged to no one else. In 1969, Davies founded Supertramp. The band went through many changes, but he remained its only constant member. As a songwriter, vocalist, and keyboardist, he carried the band's identity through decades of music. Songs like Bloody Well Right, Goodbye Stranger, My Kind of Lady, and Cannonball carried his touch. They were songs filled not just with melody but with character, humor, and at times, cynicism that spoke to everyday life. Supertramp became one of the defining acts of the 1970s and 80s. Their blend of progressive rock and pop sensibility gave them both critical respect and commercial success. Albums like Crime of the Century and Breakfast in America remain timeless classics. Davies' songwriting played a central role, shaping songs that filled stadiums while also reaching into quiet living rooms. Colleagues remember him as a perfectionist who poured himself into the details of every note. A fellow bandmate once said, "Rick was always searching for the truth inside the music. He wanted every chord to mean something." That dedication gave Supertramp a sound that was polished yet deeply emotional. Though Davies often preferred to stay out of the spotlight, his work reached millions. His lyrics spoke of love, doubt, ambition, and the small truths of daily life. Fans across generations connected to that honesty. One tribute shared online simply read, "His music was the soundtrack to my growing up. I don't know who I'd be without those songs." His passing has stirred heartfelt messages from across the music world. British broadcaster Bob Harris wrote, "Richard Davies was one of the great architects of modern rock. His songs combined sophistication with soul, and his legacy will endure." Musicians influenced by Supertramp have also paid tribute, acknowledging how his piano-driven compositions opened doors for a more thoughtful kind of rock. Even outside the band, Davies remained devoted to music. He continued to write, record, and occasionally perform, though he valued privacy and time with his family. Those close to him describe him as quiet but deeply kind, a man who let his songs speak more than his words ever could. Supertramp's live shows were legendary. They blended theatrical staging with raw musical energy. Davies' steady presence at the piano, often wearing his trademark calm expression, anchored the band through decades of change. Audiences often recall the way he would close his eyes and disappear into the rhythm, pulling the crowd into the music with him. Though fame surrounded him, he carried himself with humility. Friends and fans alike saw him as someone who valued art over glory. In interviews, he often downplayed his role, saying the music itself was what mattered most. That humility only deepened the respect people had for him. His family released a short statement after his passing. Richard was a devoted husband, father, and grandfather. Music was his gift, but his greatest love was his family. We thank everyone for the kind words and the memories being shared. That message has been echoed in thousands of tributes around the world. The news has also reignited interest in Supertramp's music. Streaming numbers have risen sharply since his passing, as old fans return to familiar songs and new listeners discover them for the first time. It is a reminder that while the man is gone, the art remains alive. Richard Davies leaves behind a legacy that cannot be measured only in records sold or concerts played. He gave the world melodies that crossed generations and emotions that still resonate today. His songs became part of weddings, road trips, quiet nights, and personal journeys. They became memories in sound. As the music world says goodbye, there is comfort in knowing that his voice will never truly fade. His piano will still echo in Goodbye Stranger. His wit will still shine in Bloody Well Right. His spirit will still breathe in every Supertramp record ever played. Richard Davies will be remembered as more than the founder of a band. He will be remembered as the soul of Supertramp, a man who gave his life to music and left behind a gift that will outlive us all. Farewell to Richard Davies, the songwriter, the voice, the quiet poet behind the keys. His music continues, and through it, so does he. The news was confirmed in March 2025. Jesse Colin Young, the gentle voice behind one of the most enduring anthems of the 1960s, passed away at the age of 83. For many, his song Get Together was not just music. It was a call for unity, a reminder that peace and love could guide a generation during a turbulent time in history. His loss leaves behind a quiet emptiness in the world of folk rock. Born Perry Miller on November 22, 1941, in Queens, New York, Jesse Colin Young discovered music as both a refuge and a form of expression. His voice carried a warmth that was unmistakable. In the mid-1960s, he formed the Youngbloods, a group that blended folk, rock, and a spirit of protest into something timeless. Their signature song, Get Together, became a cultural touchstone, urging people to love one another in a world filled with division. Even after the Youngbloods dissolved in 1972, Young continued his journey as a solo artist. He released Song for Julie in 1973, an album inspired by his daughter, which many fans still regard as his finest work. Through the 1970s and 80s, he created music that reflected both the landscapes of America and the intimate landscapes of the human heart. His life was not without hardship. In 1995, a devastating wildfire destroyed his California home. Instead of giving up, Young moved with his family to Hawaii, where he began a new chapter. Surrounded by nature, he built a life that balanced music with farming, raising coffee, and living close to the earth. In 2012, he was diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease, which forced him into retirement. Yet, in true Jesse Colin Young fashion, he returned to music a few years later. Performing alongside his son Tristan, he released Dreamers in 2019, a project that proved his voice still carried the same grace and conviction it always had. Tributes following his passing have been heartfelt. Folk singer Arlo Guthrie wrote, "Jesse gave us more than songs. He gave us a way of seeing the world, softer, kinder, more human." Fans on social media have shared similar feelings, with one post reading, "His music helped me through the hardest days." Jesse's voice was hope. Those who knew him personally remember his kindness. He was described as humble, thoughtful, and deeply connected to both his family and his audience. His songs were not written to chase fame, but to connect hearts. The anthem, Get Together, continues to play at rallies, gatherings, and moments of reflection. It is a song that refuses to age, carrying the same meaning today as it did more than half a century ago. That enduring legacy is perhaps Jesse Colin Young's greatest gift. His passing reminds us that voices like his are rare. Voices that speak gently, yet carry power. Voices that remind us of what we share, rather than what divides us. Jesse Colin Young will be remembered as the voice of a generation, but also as a man who never lost faith in the power of love and music. His melodies remain, and with them, his spirit continues to guide us. Farewell to Jesse Colin Young, the voice that asked us all to get together, and the heart that reminded us we could. The news was received with deep sadness in 2025. Graham Greene, the Canadian First Nations actor whose presence brought both strength and tenderness to the screen, passed away at the age of 73. His loss is felt not only in cinema, but in the cultural heart of North America, where his work helped shape understanding and respect for Indigenous voices. Born on June 22, 1952, in Six Nations Reserve, Ontario, Graham Greene grew up with stories that carried generations of memory and tradition. From an early age, he learned that storytelling was more than entertainment. It was a way of keeping history alive. That lesson stayed with him, guiding a career that would stretch across decades, from small stages to some of Hollywood's most celebrated films. His breakthrough came with the 1990 film Dances with Wolves, where he portrayed Kicking Bird, a thoughtful Lakota Sioux medicine man. Greene's performance was quiet yet powerful, filled with dignity and authenticity. The role earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor, bringing global recognition to both his talent and the importance of Indigenous representation in film. In the years that followed, his career grew steadily. He appeared in Thunderheart, bringing humanity to the story of Native struggles in America. In The Green Mile, he offered a performance that was understated yet unforgettable. He worked across genres, from dramas and thrillers to comedies and even science fiction, showing a rare versatility that made him one of the most respected actors of his generation. Despite the fame, Greene never lost his sense of humility. He often described himself as just a working actor, focused more on the story than the spotlight. In interviews, he spoke about the responsibility of carrying roles that reflected not only himself, but the heritage of his people. Tributes following his passing have come from across the entertainment world. Actor Kevin Costner, who worked alongside him in Dances with Wolves, said, "Graham gave the role of Kicking Bird a soul. He helped me see the story in a deeper way, and I'll always be grateful." Fans have also shared their grief and gratitude online. One message read, "Every time Graham appeared on screen, I felt seen. He carried our stories with honesty." Another tribute said simply, "He made us proud." Beyond film, Green gave his time to projects that supported Indigenous communities and young actors. He believed in passing down not just skills, but the courage to tell stories truthfully. Many recall his encouragement, his humor, and his ability to put people at ease, no matter how intimidating the moment might have seemed. In his personal life, he valued privacy, often retreating away from Hollywood's noise. Friends described him as someone who enjoyed laughter, music, and moments of quiet. His life reflected a balance between the demands of art and the grounding presence of tradition. As an artist, his impact was lasting. His performances brought visibility to First Nations experiences at a time when such voices were rarely given the screen. He broke barriers without losing the gentle strength of his character. His legacy is not just in the roles he played, but in the respect he earned for his people and for the art of storytelling itself. Today, when audiences revisit his films, they find more than entertainment. They find lessons in empathy, dignity, and humanity. They find the voice of a storyteller who carried nations within him, and who left those stories for the world to hear. Graham Greene will be remembered as an actor of rare depth, but also as a man who believed in the power of stories to heal, to teach, and to connect. His passing leaves a silence, yet his work continues to speak. Farewell to Graham Greene, the storyteller of nations whose voice will echo far beyond the screen.